The gold-veined marble of the Palazzo Hotel lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, so perfect I could see my reflection fractured across its surface, distorted and trembling like the breath I was trying to steady. My arms ached from the weight of the pastry boxes, edges cutting into my forearms through my flour-dusted sleeves. I focused on that sharp pressure, anything to quiet the panic rising in my chest like floodwater. I'd been delivering to the palazzo for 4 months now, always through the service entrance, always invisible. Today, a burst pipe in the back corridors had forced me through the main lobby. Of course. Because my life wasn't already a minefield without walking through a space where Marcus might find me. The lobby stretched ahead like a canyon of wealth I'd never belonged to. Soaring ceilings, art installations that probably cost more than my rent for a year, the scent of imported lilies and expensive leather mixing in air-conditioned perfection. My sneakers whispered against marble that had probably never felt rubber soles, announcing my working-class presence with every step. I kept my head down, braids falling forward like a curtain. 28 steps to the elevators. Then I could disappear into the service corridors beyond the penthouse kitchen, deliver these raspberry entremet cakes and chocolate sculptures, collect my payment, and vanish back into my small, safe world. 28 steps. I could survive that. Ava. The voice stopped me mid-stride. My stomach plummeted. That familiar tenor with its edge of ownership, turning my blood to ice water despite the warm lobby. I didn't turn around. Maybe if I kept walking, he'd think he was mistaken. Maybe the universe would grant me this one mercy. Ava, wait. I know that's you. Footsteps behind me, quick and determined. My pulse hammered in my throat as I clutched the pastry boxes tighter and walked faster, the boxes shifting dangerously. 18 steps to the elevators. Just 18 more steps. Don't you dare walk away from me. His hand clamped on my shoulder, spinning me around with enough force that I stumbled. The boxes tilted, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought $300 of custom desserts, 3 weeks of groceries, would shatter across this perfect floor. Marcus looked exactly as he had 8 months ago when I'd finally escaped. Close-cropped hair, sharp jawline, expensive charcoal suit that his tech startup salary paid for. Wire-rimmed glasses that had once made him look intellectual now just looked calculating. The familiar scent of his cedar cologne, the one he'd insisted I wear too, because couples should match, made my stomach turn. I need to make my delivery, I said, proud that my voice only shook slightly. Please let me go. Let you go. His laugh was sharp, bitter. Like you let me go? Just disappeared one day, blocked my number, changed your route to work. We were building a life together, Ava. We were never building anything together. You were building your vision, and I was supposed to disappear into it. I took a step back, trying to create distance. I gave you your key back. I explained everything in my letter. Your letter. He spat the words like they tasted foul. 8 months together, and you end it with a letter. Do you have any idea how that made me look? How the guys at the startup reacted when you didn't show up to the launch party? How my mother keeps asking what I did wrong? The thing about Marcus was that everything always circled back to him, to his image, to his timeline, to how things affected his carefully curated narrative of success. I'd spent 8 months trying to fold myself small enough to fit into his version of the perfect girlfriend, attending his networking events with a smile, nodding through his lectures about optimizing my career trajectory, accepting his criticisms about my inefficient baking schedule disguised as concern. The day I'd moved into my cramped studio apartment in Brooklyn, taking only what I'd brought into the relationship, had been the first time I'd breathed freely in months. I'm sorry you were hurt, I said, aiming for calm despite my racing heart. But we weren't right for each other. You know that. What I know is that you owe me a real explanation. Face to face. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Not hard enough to bruise. Marcus was too smart for that, too aware of optics, but firm enough to communicate that I wasn't leaving until he allowed it. The boxes wobbled dangerously in my other arm. You're going to make me drop these, I said, hearing the edge of panic creeping into my voice. They're worth $300 that I can't afford to replace. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you humiliated me. My vision narrowed, the opulent lobby around us fading as my focus tunneled to his hand on my wrist, to the familiar sensation of being trapped. This was how it had always been. His needs, his feelings, his control disguised as care. I'd promised myself the day I left. Never again. Never again would I let someone make me feel this powerless. Let go of me. The words came out stronger than I expected, sharp enough that a passing couple in designer clothes glanced our way before quickly looking away. No one wanted to get involved in other people's drama, especially not in a place like this. Marcus's expression shifted, his grip loosening slightly but not releasing. We're making a scene, Ava. You hate scenes. Just come to the lounge with me. 10 minutes. We'll have a civilized conversation like adults, and then you can make your delivery. I don't want to have a conversation. Too bad. His fingers tightened again, a reminder of exactly who held power here. You don't get to just walk away from 8 months without giving me closure. The elevator bank was maybe 15 feet away now. If I could just break free, if I could reach those doors before he caught up, I could escape this nightmare. But the lobby suddenly felt too warm, too close, the beautiful space transforming into a cage. Hotel staff carefully avoided looking our way, trained to ignore domestic disputes that didn't involve violence, yet. Marcus, please. I hated the pleading note in my voice, hated that he'd reduced me to begging again. I'm working. I'll lose this contract if I'm late. 10 minutes. Then I'll let you go. We both knew that was a lie. 10 minutes would become 20, then an hour, then he'd insist on dinner to really talk things through, wearing down my resistance until I agreed to give him another chance just to make it stop. I'd seen this pattern before, lived through it enough times to know better. My eyes darted past him, searching for help, for security, for anyone who might intervene. But the well-dressed people in the palazzo lobby kept their distance, unwilling to involve themselves in someone else's problems. The hotel staff looked away, and I was alone again with a man who believed my boundaries were suggestions, not requirements. The realization galvanized me. I twisted sharply, using the defensive move Sienna had taught me in that self-defense class I'd taken after leaving him. My wrist broke free from his grip with a wrench that would probably leave a mark. The pastry boxes lurched dangerously, one corner catching air, but I managed to steady them as I spun away, my sneakers squeaking on that perfect marble as I lunged toward the elevators. Ava! Marcus's shout echoed through the lobby, drawing more attention now. I didn't care. Survival instinct had kicked in, overriding embarrassment or social propriety or anything except the desperate need to be anywhere he wasn't. I slammed my hand against the elevator call button. Once, twice, 3 times, as if that would make it arrive faster. Behind me, I could hear his footsteps gaining ground, could hear him calling my name with that edge of wounded entitlement that had once made me apologize for his behavior. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime that sounded like salvation. I threw myself forward without looking, desperate only to have metal doors between us, to have a moment to breathe and think and plan my next escape. My shoulder collided with something solid, warm, unmovable. The pastry boxes began their inevitable tumble toward disaster. Strong hands caught me, plucking the boxes from my grip with startling speed and precision, steadying them before a single raspberry could be disturbed. I stumbled backward, looking up at the man I'd just crashed into with enough force to bruise someone smaller. He was not smaller. The stranger stood easily over 6 feet, broad-shouldered in a way that suggested real strength rather than gym vanity. His navy suit was impeccably tailored, the kind of craftsmanship I'd learned to recognize from Marcus's obsessive fashion magazines. But where Marcus's expensive clothes had always looked like costume, this man wore his like a second skin. Dark hair swept back from a face carved from stone and shadow, all sharp angles and hard lines that should have been cold but instead held an odd magnetism. But it was his hands that stopped my breath. Tattooed hands visible where his crisp white shirt cuffs had pulled back, intricate designs winding up his forearms beneath the expensive fabric. Hands that held my $300 pastry boxes with surprising gentleness for someone who radiated controlled danger. His eyes, dark and penetrating with an intensity that seemed to look through me rather than at me, held a weight I couldn't name, a gravity that made the air between us feel suddenly dense. "I'm sorry," I gasped, reaching for my boxes. "I didn't see. I wasn't looking. I just..." "Ava, get back here." Marcus's voice shattered the moment. Without thinking, I lunged fully into the elevator, my body moving on pure instinct. The stranger stepped aside smoothly, still holding my pastry boxes with careful precision, his dark eyes flickering past me to where Marcus was now only feet away. Something cold crossed the stranger's features, there and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Then his hand moved, long fingers pressing the button for the doors to close. "Wait!" Marcus shoved his hand forward, trying to catch the closing doors. But the stranger shifted, his body blocking the entrance, imposing and immovable as a wall. The doors slid shut with a soft thunk that felt like the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Through the narrowing gap, I caught a final glimpse of Marcus's furious face, his mouth moving in words I couldn't hear and didn't want to. The elevator lurched into motion, and I sagged against the back wall, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. My heart hammered against my ribs hard enough to hurt. I'd done it. I'd actually escaped. For the moment, anyway. "Thank you," I managed, looking at the man who still held my pastry boxes with unexpected gentleness. "I'm sorry for crashing into you and dragging you into my mess." He studied me for a long moment, those intense eyes cataloging details with a precision that felt almost invasive. Then, surprisingly, his mouth curved into something that might have been the ghost of a smile. "The boxes are safe," he said. His voice was low, controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, or further east. "That seems to be what matters most to you." I laughed, the sound emerging shaky and too high. "They're not just boxes. They're 3 weeks of grocery money and the only reason I still have this contract." The elevator climbed smoothly, floor numbers ticking upward. The stranger's gaze hadn't left my face. "What floor?" he asked. "Penthouse kitchen," I said automatically. "P, I think. I usually come through the service entrance." Something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition, calculation, something I couldn't read. "The penthouse," he repeated, his tone unreadable. "Yes, I'm delivering for a private event. Some finance celebration or something." I realized I was babbling, words tumbling out as adrenaline drained from my system. "I make custom desserts for events. Not here usually, but the head chef knows my boss and recommended me, and this is probably way more information than you needed." The elevator suddenly gave a grinding lurch. The lights flickered once, twice, then settled into a dim emergency glow. The floor display froze on 23. We'd stopped moving. "What's happening?" I pushed off the wall, my earlier panic resurging in a different form. The stranger remained perfectly still, his expression unchanging as he calmly set my pastry boxes on the floor and pressed the emergency call button. Nothing happened. He tried several other buttons. Still nothing. "We're stuck," I whispered, the reality sinking in with cold dread. "We're stuck in the elevator." He pulled out his phone, the screen casting blue light across his features, highlighting those sharp cheekbones and the shadow of stubble along his jaw. No signal. Of course not. Because my day wasn't already complicated enough without being trapped in a metal box suspended God knows how many stories above the ground with a complete stranger. A complete stranger who was now studying me with that same unsettling intensity, as if I were a puzzle he decided to solve. And somewhere far below, Marcus was still waiting. If you are still listening and feel this story touching something inside you, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, to like and share this video so we can continue bringing heartfelt stories every day. And if it isn't too much to ask, would you tell me where you're watching from? Leave a comment below and let us know which corner of the world this story has reached. We treasure every word you share with us. How long do you think we'll be stuck here? My voice came out too tight, edges fraying with panic I couldn't quite suppress. The stranger slipped his phone back into his pocket with deliberate calm. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Hotel elevators have emergency protocols, but implementation varies. He gestured to the floor. You should sit. Preserve your energy. Hours. I could be trapped here for hours with him. He settled against the elevator wall with the ease of someone accustomed to waiting, to being patient. Those dark eyes never left my face. "So," he said, his voice carrying a note of what might have been amusement, "tell me about these desserts worth 3 weeks of grocery money." Despite everything, the trapped elevator, Marcus somewhere below, the strangeness of this entire situation, I found myself talking. About the raspberry entree met cakes with their mirror glaze, the dark chocolate sculptures shaped like cherry blossoms. He listened with an attention Marcus had never given me, asking questions that showed he actually understood the complexity of what I did. "Your grandmother taught you?" he asked. "Everything." The word came easier than expected. "She had a bakery in Charleston. Taught me that baking is about feeling, not just following recipes." Past tense. I nodded, swallowing against sudden tightness. 3 years ago. She left me her recipe books and a dream I'm still trying to reach. How much more do you need? That's personal for someone whose name I don't know. Something flickered in those eyes. "Lorenzo," he said. "Lorenzo Vitoli." "Ava Mitchell." "How much more, Ava?" "About $27,000. Maybe 2 more years if nothing goes wrong." Which it always does. I tilted my head, studying him. "What do you do, Lorenzo?" "I own this hotel. Several others." His jacket shifted as he moved, and I caught a glimpse of leather, a holster. My breath caught. His gaze followed mine, and he didn't bother hiding it. "I handle problems for people who can't handle them themselves." The elevator lurched suddenly, lights flickering back to full brightness. A crackling voice from the speaker. "We'll have you moving shortly." Lorenzo stood, offering his hand to help me up. His grip was warm, solid, unexpectedly gentle. "Your ex-boyfriend downstairs," he said quietly. "Your Marcus problem. I could make it disappear. Completely." He paused, those dark eyes holding mine. "If you're interested." The doors slid open to chaos. Hotel security flanked a furious Marcus, whose face transformed from anger to shock when Lorenzo stepped out first. The shift in energy was immediate. Marcus actually stepped backward, his bravado crumbling in the face of Lorenzo's silent authority. A massive man appeared from nowhere, all shoulders and controlled menace. Lorenzo said something in rapid Italian, and the man, Antonio, I'd learn later, positioned himself between Marcus and the elevator like a human wall. "Sir, this woman," Marcus started. "Is making a delivery," Lorenzo interrupted, his voice carrying the kind of quiet command that made arguing seem impossible. "Which you've delayed long enough." His hand settled at the small of my back, warm, proprietary, but somehow not controlling. Just present, claiming space. "This way, Ava." I grabbed my pastry boxes and let him guide me past Marcus's stunned face, past security, into the service corridors I should have used from the beginning. His touch never wavered as we rode another elevator to the actual penthouse kitchen, where I delivered my desserts to a chef who barely glanced at me. Afterward, Lorenzo led me to a private lounge with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He pulled a card from his inner pocket, heavy black cardstock with gold embossing. Just his name and a phone number. "I'm extending an offer," he said. "Protection from your ex-boyfriend. Resources to open your bakery. Connections in this city that could change everything for you." He paused. "In exchange, I ask for your company at social events. 6 months. Think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement." My hand trembled as I took the card. "Why would you do this?" "Because I can. Because you need help. And because I need someone." He chose his words carefully. Authentic. Real. Someone not impressed by all this. He gestured to the opulence around us. "I don't even know you. Then you have time to decide." "But Ava." His dark eyes held mine. "You don't have to keep running." I fled through the service exit, only to find Antonio waiting beside a black sedan. "Mr. Vitoli insisted I drive you home, Miss Mitchell." The protection had already begun. "You did what?" Sienna dropped her graphic design stylus, staring at me like I'd announced plans to join a cult. I collapsed onto our threadbare couch, still clutching Lorenzo's card. Marcus cornered me at the palazzo. This man, Lorenzo, he helped me get away. And then he offered me. I don't even know what to call it. Start from the beginning. Everything. I told her about the lobby confrontation, the elevator malfunction, the 2 hours trapped with a stranger who'd somehow made me feel safer than I had in months. When I got to Lorenzo's proposition, Sienna's expression shifted from concern to alarm. "Let me see that card." She snatched it from my hands, already pulling out her laptop. Lorenzo Vitoli. "Okay, let's see what we're dealing with." The search results painted a complicated picture. Society page photos showed Lorenzo in tuxedos at charity galas, always with beautiful women on his arm. Business profiles listed an empire, the Palazzo, 3 other luxury hotels, restaurant groups, real estate holdings across Manhattan. Then came the forums, true crime enthusiasts speculating about the Vitoli family's alleged mob connections stretching back 3 generations. "Listen to this," Sienna read. "The Vitoli family has controlled certain New York territories since the 1950s. While current patriarch Lorenzo Vitoli maintains a legitimate business front, questions remain about how rivals consistently sell properties at significant losses or disappear from the market entirely." She looked up. "Ava, this man is dangerous." "I know." But I couldn't stop thinking about his words. "You don't have to keep running." My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered before I could overthink it. "Ava." Lorenzo's voice, calm and certain as gravity. "I hope you made it home safely." "I did. Thank you. I'd like to extend an invitation." Dinner tomorrow evening at my penthouse. No commitments. Just a conversation about possibilities. Sienna was frantically shaking her head, mouthing, "No." 7 o'clock. Lorenzo continued. Antonio will collect you. I looked at my best friend's terrified face, at Lorenzo's card still in her hand, at my small apartment that never quite felt safe anymore. "Okay," I whispered. 7 o'clock. Antonio drove in silence through Manhattan, finally pulling up to a Tribeca building that screamed old money. Lorenzo's penthouse was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art beside old Italian family photographs, a space that managed to feel both luxurious and lived in. Lorenzo greeted me in black slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal those tattooed forearms. More relaxed than before, but still commanding every inch of space around him. Over dinner prepared by his housekeeper Rosa, pasta that melted on my tongue, he laid out his proposition with businesslike precision. 6 months. You'll accompany me to business dinners, charity galas, social functions. You'll live here, an entire floor with private entrance, rent-free. He paused. In exchange, Marcus receives a visit from my associates. They'll help him understand that pursuing you has consequences he won't enjoy. What exactly will they do to him? My voice was steadier than I felt. Nothing illegal. We'll simply make him understand he's out of his depth. Men like Marcus are cowards. They fold when confronted by real power. Lorenzo's expression was unreadable. Additionally, I'll connect you with commercial real estate agents, restaurant investors. Provide capital for your bakery, to be repaid over 10 years, 0 interest. Why? I set down my fork. What do you get besides a date to parties? His answer was brutally honest. Legitimacy. I'm transitioning my family's business into fully legal operations. Having a respectable, intelligent, beautiful woman at my side helps that image. You're exactly what I need, someone real, accomplished, not from this world. The silence stretched between us, heavy with implications. This is insane, I finally said. Perhaps. But you're exhausted from looking over your shoulder. And I'm offering you a way to stop running. He leaned forward slightly. 6 months. Ava. Then you're free with enough savings and connections to build exactly the life you want. I thought about Marcus finding me again. About 2 more years of scraping by. About the weight of always being afraid. Okay, I whispered. 6 months. Something flickered in Lorenzo's eyes. Satisfaction, or maybe relief. Then we have an agreement. Moving day felt like stepping into someone else's life. I packed my existence into 3 suitcases. Grandmother's recipe books wrapped in dish towels, culinary school certificates, a modest wardrobe that suddenly seemed threadbare. Sienna helped, oscillating between concern and cautious excitement. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you call me immediately, she said for the 100th time. I promise. At Lorenzo's penthouse, Rosa gave me the tour. My floor was larger than my entire Brooklyn apartment, a bedroom suite with silk curtains, a walk-in closet that echoed when I stepped inside, a bathroom with a soaking tub deep enough to drown in. A private balcony overlooked the city I'd always viewed from ground level. This can't be real, I whispered. Rosa's smile was warm, maternal. Come. Let me show you the kitchen. The kitchen made my heart stop. Professional-grade everything. A 6-burner range, double ovens, marble countertops that stretched forever. Rosa explained where everything was kept while Antonio appeared to outline security protocols with military precision. Codes, panic buttons, protocols for leaving the building. Lorenzo was away on business. He'd left a note in his strong handwriting. Make yourself at home. The kitchen is yours whenever inspiration strikes. That first night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I found myself in that beautiful kitchen, baking Grandma's peach cobbler by muscle memory. The familiar motions soothed me, cutting butter into flour, the scent of cinnamon and brown sugar filling the space. Rosa found me at dawn, flour dusting my braids, and didn't seem surprised. Your grandmother taught you? We spent the morning trading techniques, swapping stories about women who'd taught us that cooking was love made visible. When Lorenzo returned that evening, he found me still in the kitchen, testing a new cake recipe. His tie was loosened, exhaustion softening those sharp features, but when he saw me covered in flour, something warm crossed his face. Is that peach cobbler? Over dessert, he told me about his nana in Sicily, who believed good food could heal anything. I talked about Grandma's bakery, about Sunday mornings learning to make biscuits. For the first time I thought maybe, just maybe, this could work. If you are still listening and feel this story touching something inside you, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, to like and share this video so we can continue bringing heartfelt stories every day. And if it isn't too much to ask, would you tell me where you're watching from? Leave a comment below and let us know which corner of the world this story has reached. We treasure every word you share with us. Gabriella arrived with racks of designer clothes, but she wasn't what I expected. She asked questions, listened to my answers, worked with my aesthetic rather than against it. The emerald green silk gown she chose made my dark skin luminous, and the gold jewelry felt like armor, beautiful, powerful armor. Lorenzo's reaction when he saw me made my breath catch. His control slipped for just a heartbeat, raw desire flashing across his features before he masked it with that practiced calm. You're breathtaking, he said simply, offering his arm. The Metropolitan Museum of Art glittered with old money and older hierarchies. Lorenzo never left my side, his hand possessive at my waist as he introduced me to everyone as Ava, my girlfriend. Some were genuinely warm. Others assessed me like an acquisition they weren't sure was worth the investment. How did you two meet? Someone asked. I quite literally ran into him, I said, and Lorenzo's quiet laugh made something warm bloom in my chest. The evening was going well until a silver-haired woman in diamonds approached, her smile sharp as cut glass. Lorenzo, darling, what an exotic choice you've made. The word landed like a slap. Exotic. Reducing me to my blackness in a room full of white faces, making me other, making me less. Before I could respond, Lorenzo's voice went cold. Careful, Mrs. Ashford. Your age doesn't excuse your ignorance. The crowd around us went silent. The woman's face drained of color as Lorenzo continued. Ava is intelligent, accomplished, and beautiful. If you can't appreciate that without reduction to race, then I suggest you keep your observations to yourself. He guided me to the balcony, away from the stunned whispers. Are you okay? His hand found mine in the darkness. I'm used to it, I admitted, hating how true it was. You shouldn't have to be used to it. His grip tightened. Not anymore. Not while you're with me. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me, and I don't tolerate disrespect. In that moment, something shifted between us, something that felt dangerously like trust. The Chelsea Gallery opening was pleasant until he appeared, a blond man with pale eyes that held winter's cruelty. The tension between him and Lorenzo was immediate, violent in its silence. Lorenzo, the man said, his English perfect but heavily accented. I did not know you had such exquisite taste. Your companion is breathtaking. His gaze on me was predatory, assessing. I felt stripped bare under it. Lorenzo's response was controlled but lethal. Careful, Dmitri. What's mine is not for you to admire. Of course. Volkov's smile never reached his eyes. I simply appreciate beauty when I see it. Such a rare combination, strength and vulnerability. After he left, Lorenzo's entire demeanor changed. His hand at my waist became protective rather than possessive, his body angling to shield me from the room. Who was that? I asked once we were in the car. Dmitri Volkov. Russian mafia with ambitions to control harbor operations my family has managed for decades. Lorenzo's jaw was tight. He's dangerous, Ava. More dangerous than Marcus ever could be. That night, Antonio increased security. Lorenzo insisted I never go anywhere alone. The penthouse suddenly felt less like luxury and more like a fortress. I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I found myself outside Lorenzo's study, where light still spilled beneath the door. He sat surrounded by papers, tie discarded, exhaustion carved into his features. Did I become a liability? The question escaped before I could stop it. He looked up, something raw crossing his face. Come here. When I hesitated, he stood, crossed to me, and pulled me gently onto his lap in the leather chair. His arms came around me, solid and warm. You're not a liability, he said against my hair. You're the most precious thing I've ever been responsible for protecting. And I will burn down anyone who tries to hurt you. His arms tightened, and I let my head rest on his shoulder. The pretense was cracking, and neither of us seemed willing to repair it. Lorenzo. Yes. I'm scared. I know, Tesoro. But I've got you. 3 months disappeared in a blur of gallery openings and quiet mornings in the kitchen. Marcus had vanished, took a tech job in Seattle. Lorenzo's people had been thorough. My bakery dreams were becoming tangible. Real estate tours in Brooklyn, business consultants reviewing my plans, experiments in Lorenzo's kitchen that Rosa taste-tested with brutal honesty. Antonio taught me self-defense moves between his security rounds. Rosa became the mentor I hadn't known I needed. And Lorenzo. Lorenzo was present in ways I'd never experienced. He attended my recipe tastings, giving feedback that showed he actually understood flavor profiles. He asked about my day and listened, really listened, instead of waiting for his turn to talk. He remembered that I loved Miles Davis, that Sundays without Grandma still hurt, that meeting his family terrified me. At events, his touch was possessive, protective. But alone, he was careful, never assuming more than I offered. The turning point came on a Sunday when his mother visited. I'd braced for judgment, for the subtle racism I'd learned to expect. Instead, Francesca Vitali embraced me like I was already family. Finally, she said in accented English, someone who isn't impressed by his brooding. Over Rosa's pasta, she shared stories about Lorenzo as a boy, skinned knees and stubborn pride, a child who tried to carry the world too young. I watched him soften under his mother's teasing, saw the man beneath the armor, and something in my chest cracked open. After Francesca left, Lorenzo found me on the balcony, city lights spreading below us like scattered diamonds. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For being you. For making my mother smile. For fitting into my life like you were always meant to be there. The space between us felt charged, inevitable. When he kissed me, it was slow and deep and full of months of restrained wanting. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious, something worth protecting. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, I knew the truth neither of us had said aloud. The arrangement had stopped being pretend. Lorenzo. I know, Tesoro. I know. Everything shattered on a Tuesday morning. Lorenzo's phone rang, and I watched his face transform, control fracturing into something raw and terrifying. "Volkov has Sophia," he said, voice barely steady. 17 years old. He's holding her hostage to force me to surrender the harbor operations. He showed me his phone. Along with the girl's photo was a message: "Surrender your territory, or next I take your beautiful black queen. I wonder how long she'll last." Within an hour, Antonio had me packed and in an SUV heading north. Armed guards. A secure estate in the Catskills. Lorenzo's final words before I left: "I can't protect you and handle this. Please. Trust me." 8 days in that beautiful prison. Updates came in fragments. Lorenzo negotiating, Sophia still alive, Volkov demanding more. The waiting was agony, but it forced me to face the truth. I wasn't just grateful to Lorenzo. I loved him. Not the man who'd saved me, but all of him. His dangerous past, his code of honor, the gentleness he showed his mother, his determination to transform his family's legacy. Being with Lorenzo didn't mean losing myself. It meant finding someone who saw all of me and wanted to amplify my strength, not diminish it. On the 8th day, Antonio's phone rang. "Sophia's safe. The Volkov problem is handled." When I returned to the penthouse, I found Lorenzo in his study, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking haunted. When he saw me, his control shattered completely. We collided in the middle of the room, holding each other desperately. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered against my hair. "I've spent my whole life controlling everything, but I couldn't control how terrified I was that he'd take you from me." I pulled back to look at him. "You didn't lose me. And this arrangement, I don't want it to end. It was never just an arrangement for me, Tesoro. From that first moment in the elevator, you were mine. I was just waiting for you to choose me back. I choose you. Not because you saved me. Because you see me. Because you make me stronger." His kiss was desperate, claiming, full of everything we'd held back. No more pretense. No more holding back. Just us. Finally. The line stretched out the door of Sweet Provisions, my bakery in Brooklyn. Grandma's quilts hung on exposed brick walls, vintage cake stands displayed my fusion desserts, and warm lighting made everyone feel at home. Sweet potato panna cotta, bourbon pecan tarts with brown butter, lemon lavender olive oil cake, Southern roots meeting culinary school technique. Rosa was my head baker now, teaching 3 new staff members the way she'd taught me. Sienna, finally convinced Lorenzo was legitimate, managed the front of house with fierce efficiency. Lorenzo leaned against the counter, stealing a tartlet. I swatted his hand away playfully. "Those are for customers, Mr. Vitali." "I'm your most important customer, Mrs. Vitali." The name still felt new, wonderful. We'd married 6 months ago in Sicily, intimate ceremony at his family's estate, me in a dress I designed myself and Grandma's locket. Family and close friends only. No performance, just us. "Excuse me, are you Ava Vitali?" "The owner." I turned to the customer, smiling. "Yes, that's me. Your desserts are incredible. How did you learn to bake like this?" I glanced at Lorenzo, who watched me with undisguised pride, then back at her. "My grandmother taught me that baking is love made visible. And my husband taught me that accepting help from the right person doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable." Lorenzo crossed to me, dropping a kiss on my temple. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Vitali?" "Always." As we left the bakery together, I reflected on the journey. I'd run into that elevator fleeing one man's control and crashed into another man's protection. I'd been terrified that accepting Lorenzo's help meant surrendering my independence. But I'd learned the truth. Real love doesn't cage you. It gives you wings and then stands guard while you learn to fly. The dangerous stranger from the elevator became my husband, my partner, my home. And the woman who once believed she had to survive alone learned that the strongest people know when to let others stand beside them. My wedding ring gleamed next to the flower dust on my dark hands, both parts of who I was now. Independent and loved. Strong and protected. Finally, completely free. But here's the question that lingers long after the doors close on this chapter. What do we do when love demands courage we never thought we had? When danger rises, when the person we care for is threatened, when the villain steps out of the shadows and forces us to confront everything we fear? Do we stand still, or do we step forward? Ava didn't choose this war. It found her. Lorenzo didn't choose to love someone who made him vulnerable. It happened without warning. And Volkov didn't just test their strength. He tested their humanity. But what about you? After witnessing the moment everything they built stood on the edge of collapse, have you ever faced a situation where choosing love felt as terrifying as losing it? Have you met a moment where your heart said, stay, but your fear said, run? Be honest, with them and with yourself. Share it with us in the comments. Your story matters more than you think. If this chapter struck something deep within you, please like this video, share it with someone who might need its message today, and subscribe so you never miss another story of love, danger, and redemption. Your support is the reason we can keep bringing these emotional journeys to life. Thank you for staying to the very end of this video. May your days be gentle, your nights peaceful, and your choices guided by courage. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.